This is the Lyndsay Stafford Show.
All right, welcome back to the Lyndsay Stafford Show. We are here in the studio today with our friend Jeramy Williams, who is the broker and founder of the Williams Group. Did I say that right?
Yeah, just about. I mean,
okay,
yeah,
close.
I work for a mortgage bank, so we run a branch. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to have Jeramy here today. We are in our series featuring local legends in Middle Tennessee, and I've known Jeramy for a while now. Very excited to bring him on. He's in the mortgage industry, so we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on there. But as always, we're going to share some of his journey and experience starting his own business and relocating. So that's a big piece of what happens when you're a business owner. You got to decide where you're going to be, right? So we're going to dig into that. Jeramy, thank you for being here today. I'm so excited.
Thank you for having me.
I think we've been planning it for a while, so It's great to have you here on a Friday afternoon. Beautiful in Middle Tennessee.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about you and your business. Well, maybe start with your business.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been in residential mortgage lending for 22 years. So got started in October of 2002. Kind of seen the good, bad, and the ugly. Started on the broker side of the business back then and have migrated through mortgage banking. And that's what we're doing today. So, what does that mean? It essentially means that we are a mortgage banker broker. So in essence, if we can't do it in-house, with the service that we just really excel at, then we have a lot of different outlets where we can place it in the broker space that are just a little more unique or more complex.
Awesome. So the advantage, gosh, there's so many advantages of that, right? So
Sure.
I think about what you do, and it's very different. People have this perception of, I'm going to just go online and Google mortgages, and I'm going to click the lowest rate I can get or whatever, whichever one's going to save me the most money. You take a very hands-on approach, and there's a very different feel to that than just going online and Googling something. Talk to us a little bit about the approach of your business and how you handle it.
For sure. I think that, everybody will push, you need to shop for a mortgage, which I totally agree with. I mean, being in that space, sure. I'm not afraid of going up against competitors or seeing why we would be the right choice for somebody, but it's very much a service business. Mm-hmm. But the media wants to whittle it down to being a commodity, like you're buying a widget off the shelf. And that's not the case. You're not looking for, what's the cheapest 30-year fixed mortgage, between Amazon, Target, or Walmart, pulling it off a shelf and buying it. It just doesn't work like that. But that's how the media wants to make it, seem, push button, get mortgage. There's so much more to that. And so with us and our team, people are trying to decide, should we use you? Well, it could be 6:00 at night on a Friday evening or on a Saturday for that matter. And I'm having a conversation with them and I go, this is exactly why you should be working with me and my team, because I'm available to you after hours. I'm consulting you. I'm giving you things to think about and consider. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's not a one size fits all. So there's a big, strategy component to it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons that we connected, I love your approach of the personal piece. It matters who you're doing business with and being able to support them with your expertise. You've been through a lot in the last 20, we've been through a lot in 20 years. Tell us about some of the things that you've been through that have been really challenging in the industry, and then we'll talk about your business separately.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, basically when I got in 2002, the idea that, if you can fog a mirror, you can get a loan. Very little in the form of documentation back then. And, those types of practices led to, the major crash that we dealt with in 07, 08, very difficult time to be in the business, basically went from, having a 25 or 30 page, rate sheet of all these different programs available to literally half a page. It was like, you can do an FHA loan or a VA loan, or you can not get a loan. I mean, that was what we had available. So to really work through that, and then, that forced us to move from brokering to banking. And that was really where, now you're doing everything in-house. And that's where the service component really started to show up. And I think that's where the business excelled for me, just because I could showcase the service. And so that was, that was a trying time. But, basically in the last 10 years, we've had a chance to quadruple our business from where it was to where it is today. And so that's been exciting.
Incredible. That we've talked about, gosh, I feel like this is a conversation that's come up a lot recently, is going back to 08 and just that time of 07, 08, 09. I remember that was when we bought our first, my husband and I got married in 06.
Okay.
In May of '06. We bought our first house that year in '06. So we sold our first house in '08. It was a duplex. We owned half of it. And I was 23. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. Like, how did you even survive with 1 bathroom, right?
Yeah.
I think about that now. But I remember shopping for houses as we were relocating from Vermont to New Hampshire, and every house it felt was in foreclosure. And that was in '08, '09.
Yeah.
Like, every house we were seeing was in foreclosure. And it was such a sad thing to see. So I remember getting approved for a loan that we had no business. We didn't take it, but it was like they came back with you're pre-approved. And I was like, we can't afford that. What are you talking about? And that was in '06. And that led to all of what happened in '08 and '09. But for you to turn that around and quadruple your business, what are some of the milestones that happened to be able to grow that much over 22 years?
I mean, that's a great question. I think, I've worked for a lot of different mortgage companies over the years, but I would really attribute a lot of the success to the platform that we have at Fairway. Fairway Independent Mortgage has been phenomenal in terms of me building my team and growing. And if you've ever been in a position where you're selling and you have all the confidence in the world behind you about the team, the operational team, that they're going to get it done, you can, you say what you're going to do and you do what you're going to say and that kind of stuff. And you're able to be a man of your word. That's huge. Like, I think that is what has really contributed to the explosion, right? Because for us, it's like, just give me a chance. And I promise that if you do, what I'm telling you will happen. And then through that, we've just picked up a ton of referral partners and a ton of people who are like, you got to talk to this guy, that him and his team can help you. So
that's fantastic. But I love what you said about if you're out there as the salesperson, and for a lot of business owners, you are the salesperson when you're starting out, at least. If you don't have the right team backing you, it's really hard to be confident. But when you have a dynamite team that you're like, I can sell a product to you, but I know we're gonna rise to the occasion and fully execute to your expectations, you're like unstoppable,
right? Because
you can support what you have. So how have you developed and trained the team that you have to be able to provide that?
I think going back to Fairway again, it's the only company I've ever worked for in 22 years that actually under-promised and over-delivered on what they could provide to me to grow my business. And that's pretty incredible in the mortgage space. Everybody's poaching from everybody, like, oh, come work for us. And they sell you the moon, and then they fall flat so often. So this was, the company has, 10 core values that we subscribe to and live by. And one of them is speed to respond. Operationally, we're a very flat structure, so things happen quickly. So I think speed to respond, especially in purchasing real estate and in lending, is huge, because somebody, walks by a house and they fall in love with it and they want to buy it. That speed to respond to get that offer in and have that pre-approval in place is huge. And just through the course of that occurring, I think people have then, become raving fans for us, and then, just don't look somewhere else. They found who their lender. So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
You recently made the move from Arizona to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Was it 2 years ago?
That was about a year and a half ago.
Okay, I was thinking we're getting on 2 years, but it's not bad. Not far off. About a year and a half ago, and you're in College Grove, which also resident of College Grove. We love the town of College Grove.
Yes.
One stoplight. The post office is open for like 3 hours a day.
That's right.
But we love it.
Yeah. Yep. Can hear the cows mooing. Roosters crowing.
It's kind of crazy, right?
I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. We love it. But why did you choose College Grove in Williamson County?
Coming out of Arizona, my wife and I are golfers, and we had a certain aesthetic that we were looking for, and the Grove in College Grove, just check those boxes. And my sister lived here locally in Spring Hill, so she was sort of the front runner, and she did the investigative work to find the neighborhoods, and she's like, I think this one would be perfect for you guys. So when we came to town to visit, it was like, yeah, this is it. We looked at some other neighborhoods, but it was everything we were looking for, and the opportunity to live in a really nice part of Williamson County, play the golf, be a part of, that type of lifestyle, and then also slow everything down for our family, like with our kids, because everything is just so fast paced and the hustle and bustle of Phoenix and that area. It's nice. We're giving our kids, that are younger and they're in grade school or middle school, the opportunity to just kind of be kids. And I feel like we were around the clock like 10 years by moving to College Grove out of Phoenix.
Wow. What do you think made the difference there? Because we live in this like instant gratification world where there's a million things coming at us all day long, and it takes extreme discipline and intentionality to not let the world come at you. I talk about a lot that if you pick up your phone first thing in the morning and start opening emails and DMs and texts and scrolling, you are letting the world come at you before you've even set your intentionality for the day. But that's the reality for a lot of people. Yeah. So it takes very intense intentionality and discipline to keep that away. What specifically about College Grove and Williamson County make it feel like it's slowed down? The roosters and the cows?
The fact that you can hear the roosters and the cows, right? So it's the silence that occurs. I mean, you probably experienced this. You go up to Nashville, you start making your way down 65, you pass Brentwood, you pass Franklin, you pass Berry Farms, and then you start getting into less traffic. You start getting into the darkness of 65 to 840 or whatever. It's just the serenity. It's the calmness of being in the country, yet having all of the amenities. And we know, College Grove's growing a ton. Yeah. I mean, this part of Williamson County is growing a ton. So I think it's the right place, right time. But that's what I mean a little bit, and you walk out front, you sit on your porch. What do you hear? You don't hear anything, and I think that's the beauty of it. And the kids can ride horses and, be involved in the local little league, which is like what I remember when I was a kid, and now it's like these literal, just small town, snack bar fields, just that feeling. It's just a good feeling.
Yeah, it's great. We love where we live too. We've been here almost 10 years and we absolutely love it. And it is growing, but it still has the small town feel. College Grove specifically, I just feel like it's such a community focused area, the whole community. But slowing down and quiet is definitely not what happened in the Grove when the Live Tour was there. So how was that living there? Because I live right across from that, so I know what I experienced. Yeah. But what was it like living in that? Man, the setup was like, I think you and I had, a non-cocktail drink together. I think we had outside at the clubhouse there, and they were starting to put it up, and that was like months before.
Yeah. Honestly, coming out of Phoenix and being part of Waste Management Open, which is 500,000 people over a 4-day event. I mean, it's insane. So you see what that is like, and then you see what they did, at the Grove with Live. Honestly, I think operationally they did a phenomenal job. I thought, setup was a little cumbersome. Tear down, I thought they did an amazing job. But the event overall, it was fun to walk the course a little bit with people that were in from, outside the Grove, from all over Nashville. Just hearing their comments, you know what I mean? Oh, this place is beautiful. Oh my gosh, the course is amazing. This is such a fun event. So I think there's some pride there. I mean, we were super pleased to host it and really just showcase the Grove. It's the largest, it was or is the largest attended Live event that they've had to date. So that's huge.
Yeah, that's incredible. We featured one of our high school students, our high school highlight for one of the months. I don't remember, in the College Grove Neighbors magazine that I published. We featured one of the kiddos that was able to go play with some of the pros before that. And he plays for the middle school. He plays for high school.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so that was fun. Hunter, I believe is his name. It was several months ago, but I believe that's who it is.
Yeah, what an experience.
Oh my gosh, how cool.
Totally.
I mean, growing up in Williamson County, I don't think our kids understand how, all the cool things that you get and have and can do here in this area.
Yeah.
Now you relocated, which means obviously there's the world of virtual, so you can still certainly serve clients remotely. But when you relocated, that was a big risk, owning a business.
Yeah.
And you had that business for 20 years in another state. Yeah. How did that come about? How did that decision And that had to walk us through how you address some of that fear, because
Oh yeah,
fear is paralyzing.
for sure. I mean, it was an emphatic no when the first, opportunity or thought came about of moving our family from Arizona to Tennessee. It was just like, no, I built a business here for 20 years. I have a whole book of business. I've got clients, I've got relationships. Like I can't do that. But, I have a unique circumstance. My oldest child, has some very significant special needs. In fact, he's got some rare genetic disorder that Vanderbilt is still working on in coordination with Harvard. They're now in the stage of trying to figure out if they can really pinpoint exactly what it is. We've gone through a ton of genetic testing, but that was really the springboard for coming here from, Phoenix Children's Hospital. Kind of ran its course. He was actually misdiagnosed in Arizona and re-diagnosed here through Vanderbilt. And so that was sort of eye-opening. Oh, we think he has this, to now, no, that's not what he has. It's something else. And so we're really happy and pleased with the medical care that he's getting. But that was a family first decision to finally make the leap and move. But initially, no, I was not on board. It's not going to happen. That's, and then slowly but surely doors started closing there in certain areas and then opening here. And I think what tipped me off to that we could pull it off was that I'd helped my sister purchase a property here, and I was working with her real estate agent. And then the feedback that I got through my sister and the agent was like, that's the best lending experience I've ever had. I'm thinking, well, this is just what we do on a daily basis. So if this is like amazing to you, then we have something we needed to deliver to Middle Tennessee that they're not getting. And then that's really what we've seen grow. I mean, now we're probably 50% Arizona, 50% Tennessee in a year and a half, with what we've been able to accomplish just through word of mouth and referral.
That's incredible. And it's so great. Businesses are built based on a need.
Right.
An entrepreneur is a problem solver, and you see a need and you fill that need. And so it's amazing when God's plan all comes together and the family piece ties directly into, yes, the reassurance that your business is going to flourish when you come here too. And I don't want to not mention the fact that every conversation that we've had, you're family focused. And I love that you're able to do that and stay focused on your family, but still grow your business. And with not a typical family dynamic, because you have an extra challenge there. Right. What are some of the things you have to do on a regular basis personally to keep yourself grounded and focused on the right things?
That's a very good question. I wanted to go back to, how you talked about like, you could easily end up in Instagram or emails or DMs and like, the day gets away from you. I just want to go back to that real quick because it kind of dovetails with this question.
Sure.
Because he rides the special needs bus to school, they pick him up at 7 a.m. So we're up and at it early. He relies on us for all of his caregiving, showering, he's fed through a G tube, so he doesn't eat by mouth. So he's got a special liquid diet. We're feeding him, we're getting him dressed, we're putting his braces on, we're getting his backpack ready, his walker, all that stuff. Right. So we get a jump on the day. So by the time he's on the school bus, my other two little boys, there's an hour between when they got on the school bus at 8 a.m. So, coffee's brewed, kind of taking that quiet time, a little bit of reset time with the boys in the morning. And so I think that's what helps set us up for success to kind of win the day, because we're not, smacking the alarm, everybody's late, we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off. It's kind of a unique thing that's the blessing of it, right? Mm-hmm. Not I have to, but I get to.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that when you're raising a child like Gavin, you have to embrace life that way. You have to say like, I get to, rather than I have to. If I complain about certain things, I'm like, my arms work, my hands work, my legs work. Like, those are things that don't come to everybody as easy. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I love that.
And share that.
It's true when you can guard I mean, I've coached thousands and thousands of professionals, and when you can guard your morning and truly protect that time and say, I'm going to set my day the way I'm going to choose to set my day and nothing's coming at me. I mean, I keep my text, email, everything's on do not disturb. And I've said this before, but the only thing I open my phone for in the morning, I turn my alarm off, but it's my dad saying 6 o'clock because we meet every morning at 6 to walk.
Nice.
And we're like, yes, that's it. Like, that's the only message and then my assistant at some point before 8, but those are the only 2 messages. Nothing else is allowed to come at me. And you have been given this gift of really being able to recognize the gift of slowing down and just enjoying life and prioritizing what matters most. I can imagine, I don't know firsthand, but I can imagine when you think about that's how you start every day is by serving somebody else every single day.
You're right.
You're serving.
Yeah.
And you're doing it with your wife as a team. Gosh, how powerful is that you have that to serve your family? You don't have a choice. You can't say, go get yourself
That's right.
ready.
Yep.
So no wonder you have this attitude of being a servant to those that you work with, because that's how you start every day.
Yeah. I mean, what a great tie-in, that life lesson into entrepreneurship or business.
Yeah.
It's amazing what human beings can accomplish when you don't have a choice. So many people will say to me, oh, I could never do what you do. It's like, that's the worst thing that somebody could say, because it's not true. Because the reality is that if you're faced with that and you love your family and you love your kids or your spouse or whatever it is, you're going to find a way to do it. And, God's going to give you that grace to figure that out and get that done. For us, when I'm just a math geek and I'm a numbers guy, which is why I'm good at what I do. But when we think about, it takes, us about a half an hour each time we're feeding Gavin, 4 times a day. Well, that's 2 hours a day. There's no days off. So you take that out, 365 days a year. The amount of hours that are involved, it's literally about a month out of our year that is devoted to feeding him. So we have 11 months out of the year to work with, where the average person rolling out of bed has 12. So it's just a different perspective. It's just a different attitude. And, I'm just an incredibly driven person. So for me, being in the type of business that we're in, anybody who's an entrepreneur runs a business, you're really, in most cases, you're getting hired and fired all the time.
Right.
You're bringing on new clients. You're closing certain transactions out. And so that piece, coupled with what we deal with Gavin with special needs, is just the reality that I have to be very driven by my faith and really focused on being on my knees, so to speak, like reliant on okay, where's that next opportunity going to come from, or where's that next piece of business going to come from? And with what we've dealt with in the mortgage industry for the last 2 years, with rates, just what they've done, they've shot through the roof, and the Fed hiking rates and everything that we dealt to tame inflation. It's been a very difficult period. So probably the most difficult, even over the crash of 07, 08, just that incredible slowdown and uncertainty that people have dealt with. And so, those are things that have just caused me to really be focused on knowing that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be able to take care of my family. Don't freak out, don't stress, that kind of stuff.
And that's the stress and fear. And, the Bible says you can't serve money and you can't worship and serve money and God. You have to pick one.
Yeah.
We all need money to survive. That is literally how we survive in this world, right? So it's a hard place to find that medium where you have that trust and faith, but you're working hard for it. And sounds like you've done a really nice job of landing in that spot. And I've seen it, experienced it just from the relationship that we have over the last year and a half. So amazing. And what an inspiration to people all around. And I spent yesterday at the Entrepreneur Innovation Center here in Williamson County with some of the high school students, which they inspire me every time. It's amazing. You walk in there and you sit down with these kids and they share their business ideas and they share what they're doing. And it's just like, wow, I'm going to work for you someday, because these kids are just so smart,
Inspiring.
right? So inspiring. And one of the things I love that we can do here on this show is to share inspirational advice. Well, you just shared your story is inspirational period. But I'd love for you to share some advice for somebody. Gosh, maybe they do want to get into the mortgage industry, but they're scared out of their minds right now because it's like, how's anyone achieve success in that industry? Share with us some advice for somebody in that position. And maybe it's not just mortgage industry. It's just somebody who wants to go out on their own.
I think that I think that it's attitude over aptitude, right? I think the person with the right attitude can really accomplish anything in life, you know? So some of the skills that are involved in mortgage lending or any industry for that matter, they're intangible. It's just more about how they're wired and who they are. You know, are they a problem solver? Anybody can learn the ins and outs of the mortgage industry, how to put a loan together, how to calculate income, how to, you know, qualify somebody, you know, I mean, all the steps involved. But it's the stuff that, you know, when we talked about it being a service business, which, you know, those are the intangibles. Those are the things that, you know, that you're creating the connection, and you know, getting a mortgage in and of itself isn't sexy, but buying your first home and envisioning, you know, having a family there and a white picket fence and, you know, a cat and a dog and all. I mean, that's the stuff. Like I can see it, you're starting to see that in your head,
right?
You know, that's what people do. It's like they fall in love with the dream, because it still is the American dream of owning a home. So it's connecting with people on that level. And so that's the piece that we buy into the emotion of it. And we try to meet our clients there in the sense of like, that's amazing. We're going to make that happen for you. Right. So now it's like, okay, we're doing it together. I think that applies to any business. So it's that ability to collaborate with other people. It's those intangibles, and it's the ability to say like, okay, we're going to roll up our sleeves and get it done, and, you know, find a way to accomplish it. So I don't know if that helps, but that's what I see.
Yeah. I mean, I hear a couple things in there. First, attitude is everything. If you decide you can do it, you'll do it. If you decide it's too hard, you'll never do it.
Right.
I like to say when I talk to folks that are starting a business, you have to have grit and tenacity to decide not to quit, because there will be a million things that make you want to quit what you're doing because it's hard.
Yep.
Inevitably, the emotional cycle of change takes us into the valley of despair. Always. We go through it sometimes in a day.
Sure.
And sometimes it's every week, and sometimes it's more than that or less than that. But you find yourself in the valley of despair going, I'm just going to go back to what I was doing before because I know that place. I've been there. I've done that. But you left that for a reason. And so for someone who's struggling or who's, you know, thinking about making a change, it's that attitude of, I'm going to do what I have to do no matter what. I will do it, and I'm just going to be positive about it. And I love the relationship piece, because anyone can check boxes. Any business owner can sell a product. But when you actually do it people first and you care about the folks that you're talking to and you put people first, it's a whole different experience.
Yeah.
So whatever career you choose, whatever business you choose, choosing to put people first is really the key to success, period.
True. You know, I heard something years ago at a seminar that I went to, and it was a guy, and it was on sales. But the guy said that really, if you're in that industry, you sell out of your back pocket, is what he said. And what he meant by that was you really sell the way that you also want to be sold. So he said, you know, there's a third of the people out there that are going to be like you, and they're going to gravitate to you, and they're going to want to buy from you. There's a third that are just not your client. And then there's another third that's in the middle. And then that's your job really with that middle ground, to see what you can do about, you know, persuading them and bringing them over to your camp. I thought it was fascinating, and I agree with that, right? Because if somebody is very focused on dollars and cents, or, hey, what's the cheapest? That's selling out of their back pocket, because that's just sort of ingrained in them. So they're looking for those people, and it doesn't really matter relationship wise. It's sort of like bottom line. I'm not that person. I'm very much like, I want to work with the best. You know, I want the quality. And I'm not afraid to pay for something if I know that the experience and the quality is going to back it up. And I think that we deliver the same thing. Back to my business, we're uniquely positioned because a lot of times people think like, oh, if I work with you, it's going to cost me more. No, actually, it's not the case at all. I mean, we're highly competitive. They basically get everything that they would ever want in working with us, and they're not paying an arm and a leg to do it. So I think that leaves people very satisfied in the very end because they're like, oh, it was phenomenal. And, I didn't have to pay through the nose for it.
Yeah, they don't have to compromise price for service. What do you do when somebody that is like, that's all they want is, are you the cheapest? I just want to be I want the best rate, and that you can tell that they're not your person. Yeah. How do you handle that?
A lot of times if I'm in that position, it becomes very evident that there's a lack of trust there, right? So they're keeping me at bay and they want to keep it on whatever that level is. And we're having a difficult time, taking that next step and building rapport or building trust. So a lot of times I just try to turn that a little bit more towards what is the most important thing to you about your lending, and that's sort of, that question is just kind of, I guess it disrupts. It's a disruptor, right? So I do that because I want to really drill down as quick as possible on what's most important to them. Mm-hmm. And so I want them to say that, right? I want them to say like, well, I just want the cheapest. Well, that means, that's the cheapest is not always the lowest rate. It could be the lowest cost. But the lowest cost could end up being a higher rate because you're getting a credit, or there's so many different ways to work this out. So you really have to get to, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that statement? What is it that you're actually saying you want? Because, we've all heard that phrase like, we want to have our cake and eat it too. You can't do that if you're like, I want no cost and I want the lowest rate. It doesn't exist. That's just not how the cost of money works. So it's really a matter of trying to drill down on what's most important to you. I have all the confidence in the world that we can get there because the cost of money is the cost of money. But it's really our job to help educate them to say, look, this is really not in your financial best interest to do that. To chase this elusive rate and pay all this money to do that probably isn't going to make sense for you or break even in the long run. And we want to be mindful of your money and we want to help you make a good financial decision.
I love that. I love the patience that you're sharing there because some of those conversations are not easy.
No.
But you're obviously going back to, I want to educate and empower, but also be relational.
Yeah, I'm still human. Like I take it like as personal rejection sometimes, right?
It's hard not to.
That's me opening up and being honest, It's like, and that's hard to do, is to keep it about, it's not about me, it's really about them. But it feels like they're rejecting me. Mm-hmm. They're not listening to me, whatever it may be. But then that goes back to like, it's like that heart check. Because for me, I really go like, no, I really do care about helping them make a good decision. I really do care about saving their money and not spending it frivolously or like, that's a lot of what goes into, us putting together different options for them to consider.
Yeah. So, if you have the right mentality and you really care, you'll figure it out, right?
Yeah,
you'll get it. But it is a constant struggle for entrepreneurs. That emotional, I had that conversation with someone this morning already. Like, don't let your emotions take over. It's not personal rejection, but it is a struggle. So I found the only way to get better is to continue to go through it because you get better at handling it. It doesn't go away. You just get better at handling it because you've been through it before.
Yeah, I mean, as human beings, I think, we flock to comfort, right? We want to be comfortable. So when people talk about getting out of your comfort zone, it's why not everybody's an entrepreneur. It's why not everybody does sales. It's why not everybody does what you and I do, because it's hard. If it were easy, everybody would do it, right? But the hard work are the stuff that creates the most rewarding experiences later on in life. A local guy here, Dave Ramsey, right? I mean, he's a Grove guy, College Grove, but he says, he said for a long time, it's like, you have to live like no one else so you can live like no one else, right? So you have to go through the grind, and you have to be disciplined, and you have to do things that create opportunities for you that nobody else is going to have. But you got to get through a lot of stuff to get to the other side.
So good. Everything you just said there is so good. I think it's Harbor and Union down by the factory.
Okay.
Yesterday with the EIC touring for an event we're doing in January. I'm going to host a small business event in January. And on the wall, it says, I think I'm going to say it right. Hopefully I don't butcher it. It says, comfort is the fastest way to a slow death, living in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You got to get uncomfortable to really live. You have to be uncomfortable. It's been awesome to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing so much about what you do. And, I can't think of a better person to do business with, and very happy and proud to be able to showcase you on the show. Can you tell everybody where to find you?
Absolutely. There's a lot of different ways to find us. On Instagram, you can follow us at Williams Group Mortgage. You can reach me directly at 602-684-5890. WilliamsGroupMortgage.com is where you can find us online. We've got over 600 5-star reviews on there from the last couple of years. If people want to kick the tires and figure out who these guys are, they can follow us there. Those are different ways to get a hold of us.
Awesome. And I know there's a lot of questions out there about the industry and rates and what's happening. And I'm going to go ahead and just take the liberty of saying I'm sure that Jeramy would be more than happy to answer questions if you reach out directly to talk about what's best for you. And we didn't even really get into real estate or talking about anything investment wise. So you'll have to come back. Will you come back?
I would love that. Last thing I will say is that we talk about something called a strike rate, which means that if in your mind, if you're at a higher interest rate, you bought something in the last couple of years, you have to get in line. You need to be in a position to strike when the market gets to a certain level or rates drop, because we're seeing so many, ebbs and flows with interest rates right now. So that strike rate is one of those things where you've got your paperwork in, you've got the strategy in place, and when we hit that level, we can pull the trigger for you and save you a significant amount of money, because those windows open and close quickly. And they have, and so we try to make sure people are prepared. So that's one of the things I want to say on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you're in that position where you want to refinance, you don't have a great rate, and you want to be ready when it comes, reach out and we'll get you ready.
Awesome. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.